Hey everybody, it's Theresa here of Larkin Design. Today I am sharing with you two tutorial videos for how I created this layout for the cut shop. And I am using the Snapshots collection designed by Ashley Horton. This is a digital collection of pattern papers, ephemera or die cut embellishments, an alphabet set, and journal cards. And so I am a big fan of hybrid scrapbooking and using digital products in ways that I would use regular scrapbooking products. And when I opened the Snapshots collection, the first thing that jumped out at me was this fabulous alphabet set. And this is part of the collection designed by Ashley. And this just looks like a great alphabet to clip a pattern paper to make your own title. And that's exactly what I did in my layout. Here's the layout that I created and the title, Going Crazy. And so I used these alphabets and I used pattern papers from the collection and brought those together to create this custom title. So that's the tutorial I'm going to share with you today, how to create your own custom title using a alphabet and digital pattern papers. So first off, what we're going to do is I've opened the alphabet itself, and again, this is the title that we're going to create. I've opened the alphabet itself, and then I also have opened up the patterned papers that I want to use. And first what I'm going to do is open up a new canvas that I can drop my title in as I create it. It's 8.5 by 11. That's what will actually go into the silhouette to be cut. And my first order of business is to trace around each of the letters using my magnetic lasso tool. And so you do this by clicking on the background layer or the layer that your letter is on. And then once you have traced around it, you right click on that letter and click layer via copy. And that gives you the background layer and then a new layer with your letter on it. And I'm going to do this for each and every one of them. So I just happened to start with the G for going, and then I'm also going to do all the other letters. So again, trace around the letter with your magnetic lasso tool, and when you get the marching ants, right click on the letter and select layer via copy, and then go back to your background layer and select the next letter. I'm sure there's other ways that you can extract these letters from the background, but this is just a simple and quick way, and it still allows you to have each letter on a unique layout. We want each layer on a different layout for our title because we're going to put a different patterned paper on each one. So this way we can trace them all, have them all on their own unique layer, and once we're done with this step, we're going to copy or drag all of these unique letters into the new canvas that we made, and then we're going to create our title. And so I'm just going through one by one. It's a pretty quick process and doesn't take a lot of time. This alphabet, that's why this alphabet is perfect for doing this, because it's whimsical and it's got nice lines that make it easy to trace. And so here I am in my new canvas, and I'm going to just set up the letters the way that I want them. So of course the G, I'm going to duplicate that and then build the second letter here. And I'm just, for the purposes of this title, right, the words are going crazy, and so I wanted the letters to be a little off. They're not perfect, they're not placed in a perfect space or anything like that, but they are all touching in some way. they're overlapping in some way. It doesn't matter what letter is in front of another letter. We just want them to be seen as one solid object. And so at this point I have my title created, and for right now I'm going to focus on the cut file. And so I've duplicated this image, and that's under image and duplicate. You can name it whatever you want to, don't even worry about that right now, and work in your duplicate image right now. And so I'm going to select all of those, and then I'm going to merge those layers. And now this word is all one piece. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the second word. And then I'm going to go into the FX function in the layers menu. And I'm going to add a stroke to each of these words. And so I'm going to show it to you in white first. And you can see, let's see. Here we go. I'm going to bump up the size a little bit and also bump up the opacity to 100% so that you can see what I'm adding here. This is a stroke around all of the letters to form one word. And you can do this as big as you want it or as small as you want it. I wanted it so that it had a little bit of cuts inside the C, the Z, and the Y. You can see that there. And so now I have that stroke set in Photoshop, and when I click on the other word, it will make that look the same. I don't want to leave it white on this cut file, however, so I'm going to go back here and change them to black, and at this point save this as your cut file. Distinguish between your cut file and your print file. And when we go to the Silhouette software, you'll understand why we're doing that. So now we can go back to our first file that we created, and we can add our patterned papers to each of these letters. And so I'm going to just drag and drop those papers on top of the letter that I want it to go into. And when you do that at a 12 by 12 aspect ratio, you might lose some of the pattern, so size that down. Click on the shift button and drag your corner so that you can size your pattern paper down. I usually go to a 6 by 6, so it's kind of like a 6 by 6 patterned paper pad, and that way you get a better visual of this pattern on that small alphabet. And of course, since I used it on more than one alphabet, I duplicated the layer that the pattern paper was on and moved it over top of the next letter, and then clipped that to that alphabet. There you could see where I was showing you how if you forget to press the shift button, that's okay. You can hit the link button in the move tool and it will maintain the aspect ratio for you. And so the stripe was interesting because once you size it down and you clip it to your alphabet, it has some white stripes in there. And so when you're using that, if you're using that stripe pattern paper, put it where there's color on the top and bottom, so that it shows better against the white stroke. We haven't added the white stroke yet, but when we do, then you'll want color at the top and the bottom of your letters. And so you can see here where I've just duplicated that stripe again, and I'm going to clip it to the alphabet on the second word. And that's an easy way to make sure that your pattern papers, that your patterns are in the same scale when you duplicate that pattern paper after you've scaled it down. And so I'm just continuing here. This is the last pattern that I'm bringing in, and I'm almost done with clipping these papers to the alphabets. Also, make sure that if you have oranges that are touching oranges on these letters, move the patterns so that there's a pink showing or a different color. Contrast these when you're placing your pattern paper so that they'll pop a little bit better. And just notice how I'm dragging each of those pattern papers on top of the letter that they're going to be clipped to in order for the clipping mask to work. And at this point, all of the letters are placed where I want them, and I have the pattern papers. And then I'm going to take each layer, each pattern paper and each letter, right click on them. I'm dragging them so that they're all in a group together, so that the GOING is grouped together and the CRAZY is grouped together in my layers palette. You don't have to do that, but it helps for our next step. And our next step is going to be not that. Our next step is going to be to grab the pattern paper and the alphabet and right click and select merge layers. And we're going to do that with each one individually first. And then once you have all 5 of those merged, then merge those 5 all together to create one word. And then you can add your stroke. And remember, we had set it already to the pixels that we needed it to be. I think I set it to a pixel of 40 and of course an opacity of 100, and it's an outside boundary. And so again, just merging all of those alphabets together and then adding the stroke. And at this point, I'm going to save it as my print file. So this is the file that I'm going to print in the Silhouette software. Save it as a PNG or save it as a JPEG, and then we're going to open the Silhouette software. Okay, so I'm in my Silhouette software and I'm going to open both of those, the print file and the cut file that we just created. So let me go in here and select those. So we have the snapshots cut file, and then we also want to open the snapshots print file that we just made. And because they're saved at 300 ppi, they come in really big. So you want to shrink those down. So that they fit on the page. Now we're not actually going to print one of these and cut the other one of these. Because it's impossible to resize these down exactly. And I'll tell you, I'll explain a little bit better. But what I want here is, I want the trace file from this one. Okay, so all I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to trace these 2 words. So select the trace area and of course go over your words, turn the high pass filter off, and that gives you what you need. You might need to bump up the threshold a little bit because it's recognizing just a few of those little lines inside there. And I'm going to grab this trace file and I'm going to copy it onto my clipboard. And then I'm going to go to the print file and shrink down your print file to where you want it. And this is to make sure that you get a good cut around your print file. So center that on the page, and let's turn on the registration marks so that we know that we're in a good place. Yep. And at this point, you know, if you want to make it a little bigger, you can, but I'm just going to leave it there. And notice how at this point it would be really hard to print this one and then cut this one, because there's no way to know for sure that you're in the center. So we have this copied onto the clipboard, and then I'm going to Control V, and it shows up right where I need it to be. And if you want to make adjustments to that little cut file, you can, or to the little cut bounding box, you can. If you want to clean up these little tiny dots in here, double click on that red line, and you see how it brings up all the little edit points. And so you can click on any one of these, and you see how the little red line shows up. Hit delete point, and that will clean up some of these little stray pieces so it doesn't shred your paper. You don't have to do that, but it'll give you a cleaner cut. And that shows you how you can how you can clean up some of these extra points if that happens. A lot of times tracing makes that happen. There's one right here that doesn't need to be here. And the rest of that looks pretty good. I think that yeah, it doesn't take long to clean up these little points. And then you get a cut file that you're really happy with. So at this point, you are free to print out your title, and then you can run it through your silhouette, and you'll have a lovely little, a fun little title here to use on your page that you created yourself, that is unique to you. And I hope that this was a helpful and inspiring tutorial. Again, be sure to check out the Cut Shop blog. I will link that below, so you can pick up this fantastic kit, and so that you can use the elements in the kit for your own fun layout. Thanks again for watching. I will see you guys back here again soon. Bye-bye.